bringing back the Big Apple. New York City residents going to the polls later this year to vote for a new mayor. Bill de Blasio's successor faces a host of issues, from the surge in crime and drugs to companies and residents leaving in droves. My next guest is one of the candidates in this hotly contested Democratic primary. He has the backing of celebrities, including Jay-Z and Sean Diddy Combs, and he joins us right now in New York City, mayoral candidate Ray McGuire. Ray, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks very much for being here. You have a business background, and you are ready to take that to help fix New York. Tell us about your platform. How do you plan on tackling some of these big issues that the city is facing, like holes in the budget, crime, reopening the economy, and people leaving for low-tax states?
Good morning. I do have a platform. It rests on three pillars. It's the economy, which is the largest, most inclusive economic comeback in the history of New York City. 500,000 jobs. Go big, go small, go forward. Fixing the infrastructure, focusing on small businesses, and making certain that we invest in the city of the future. It also has to do with safety and justice, and it has to do with that which is most fundamental to all of us, which is education. So those are the three pillars on which my vision for a New York City going forward rests.
Do you think you will be able to have that platform resonate on a city that has really a progressive corners, and it was the smallest electorate yet to come out for Bill de Blasio, and yet they voted him in?
The answer is New Yorkers want to change. They recognize that status quo means that we're going to continue to go in reverse. And so that change, which I offer, I'm an outsider, and people recognize that. But they want somebody in whom they can believe and whom they can trust, and who also has what they say in the neighborhood, who's got receipts. And I have receipts of making certain that we move forward, a track record of success, a track record of having extended the ladder. And I have likely created more opportunity, and created more wealth than all the other candidates combined. So if there's a candidate who can pull the city together with a vision and with a track record of having actually executed, it's Ray McGuire.
Tell me about your business background and how that plays into this.
You know, I had to manage during the depth of the financial crisis, where I was instructed, and we had to do more with less, than often we had to do everything with nothing. So I have attracted and retained the best talent, amongst the best talent, so that we could grow our way out of the crisis, which we're effectively done. And I had to manage budgets larger than most state budgets, and I was held accountable. And so my business background is exactly what's needed today in a city that's got a $90+ billion budget. Now is not the time for someone whose first job is managing New York City, who's never managed a budget of this magnitude, who doesn't understand the complexities of the budget, who doesn't understand the complexity of organizations, and who cannot attract the best talent, which is what's going to be required in order for our best days to be ahead of us and not behind us.
Are you going to be able to resonate with the moderate voter out there? I mean, look, there are so many decisions that have been made that look like they are all the way to the left, progressive. You know, look at some of the real estate changes that Mayor de Blasio has made, putting homeless shelters in the middle of affluent areas. What's your take on the homeless problem and how to fix it?
Well, first of all, the top priority is preventing homelessness. And from that, we need to make sure that we give the homeless services. Those who are mentally ill, for one, we need to have, and what my plan is to have an emergency social services core, which are those mental health professionals who can intervene for those amongst us who are homeless and who are mentally ill. We need to prevent it. We need to have the services, and then we need to have a pathway for a roof over the head, a roof over our heads that give us some dignity, and maybe a hot pot and a refrigerator, but certainly not warehousing the way we've done so far. You know, many of the homeless people decide not to go into the shelters because they feel the shelters are dangerous. So we need to change that. So my plan is prevention, services, and pathways.
What about your economic policy? You've had a 36-year career in business, managing really to generate $20 billion plus a year in revenue. You're seeing the economics of this city crumble with the hole in the budget, with this effort to raise taxes, the highest we've seen in a long time, causing so many people to leave New York. What are your plans in terms of raising taxes?
I don't have a plan to raise taxes. I think given the effectiveness of the New York leadership in the form of Senator Chuck Schumer and the congressional leadership here, the effectiveness of that has given us $15 billion of federal aid. My plan for our economic recovery rested on getting $5.9 billion. And so this $15 billion, depending upon how well it's used, is enough for this city to grow and to prosper, to focus on the lifeblood of the city, which are the small businesses. My plan allows us to recover and move forward. This also allows us to invest in education. It allows us to invest in those who have not been included going forward, workforce training, vocational training. So yes, my plan will resonate and is resonating as we're knocking on doors, as we're talking to the voters, as I'm going to subway stations and civic organizations. The plan is resonating. New Yorkers want something different. They want a change. They want someone with a vision, which is what I have.
So Ray, the last time Bill de Blasio spoke about his tax plans, he said, our new plan is going to tax the hell out of rich people. Are you planning to overturn that?
You know, it is the taxes take place at the state level. I do not think that the last taxes levied were necessary. I think they were punitive. We don't need to do more taxes. I've said prior to the stimulus package that we've gotten from the federal government that those who had the resources, if it were needed, would have to step up, including myself. What I now say is that some of the taxes that have been levied have been punitive. We don't need those taxes today. We have enough resources. We need to bring this city together. Yep. We need businesses. We need the high taxpayers. I want all taxpayers in New York City in order for us to grow. I want to invite businesses. This needs to be the business-friendly center of the country. It also needs to be the technology center of the country. The future of New York City, the future of this country ought to rest here, and it will so under my leadership.
Well, I agree with you. This is a city I love, certainly, and it's completely changed. Now it is the transactional capital of the world for illicit drugs. I just spoke with Ray Donovan the other day, the head of the DEA. A major topic is the drugs flooding into this city. On Sunday Morning Futures, I spoke with the former acting administrator of the Drug Enforcement Administration, Timothy Shea, and here's what he said about New York today. Listen to this.
We've seen a huge increase in the last several months. In New York, for example, they've seized 3 times as much meth in the first 4 months of this year than they had in the entire year of 2020.
Ray, methamphetamine, fentanyl, heroin, it is killing our citizens. Your reaction, and how do you combat it?
My reaction is that we need to have safe cities, safe streets. And we need to make certain that we have the trained specialists and the intelligence to make certain that we crack down not only on drugs, but we also need to crack down clearly on the gun violence. We need to make certain that I work closely with the courts and the DAs and the state officials to make certain that those who have prior convictions, those who are involved in the illicit trading of guns and or drugs, we need to get them off the streets. We need to commit the resources that are necessary. Yes, in addition to police. Yes, in addition to the intelligence, working together with the state, federal, and local officials to make sure that we have enough resources available to go and attack them. We need to address it. We need to address it immediately. That's got to be the highest priority. We need to make certain that our streets are safe. For
sure. Ray, real quick before you go, this is a crowded field. Can you stand out in this crowded field hoping to replace Mayor de Blasio?
The answer is yes, unequivocally. New Yorkers are voting. You know, when we go knock doors and talk to New Yorkers, the conversion rate has been remarkably high. So I'm quite confident about where we are, in large part because New Yorkers want something different. New Yorkers want a leader in whom they can trust and in whom they can believe, whose sole focus is on what's in the best interest of New York City, which is that which they know about me, given the track record that I have. So, well, yes, without a doubt.
I certainly agree. Yeah, New Yorkers want to change. Ray McGuire, we'll be watching. Thanks very much. We will certainly keep our eye on New York, and we'll see you soon, Ray. Thank you.